Hello and welcome. We're coming to you live from Davos. I'm very excited to have with me Mr. Parmeshwaran Iyer. He, of course, is the CEO of the Niti Aayog, the Indian government's main think tank, and he's had an illustrious career and got his hands dirty, as they say, with his involvement with the Swachh Bharat mission and many other government posts. Mr. Iyer, thanks so much. And how are you enjoying Davos so far?
No, it's great. It's a little cold, but a very warm welcome for India. So it's great to be here.
It's actually wonderful because we are here at such a tense geopolitical time for the world. But India seems to be standing out in terms of its growth figures, its numbers, its geopolitical stand. What's the big takeaway, you think, for India at a time when organization after organization is warning of a possible global recession?
Sure. Even in the couple of days I've been here with the Indian delegation, it's very clear that there's almost universal acknowledgement that India is the one bright spot in the global situation with the global headwinds. Its strong growth performance, whether you look at the World Bank rating or the IMF forecast, I think that there's recognition that amidst global uncertainty in terms of resilience and growth, India has managed to do a very good job. So I think there's recognition of that. Coming back to all the reforms which have taken place over the last 7 or 8 years, the structural reforms, whether you look at the IBC, whether you look at PLI, GST. So I think on the economic front, but also on the inclusion front, there's recognition that India is probably, is going to lead in these uncertain times.
How does India insulate itself from the impact at a time when we are all more global in terms of markets we look for, whether it's imports or exports, when countries which I say are traditional import partners or export partners are going through recessions or possible recessions?
No, like you said, Sonia, it is an interconnected world, right? No country can escape that. But I think the measures which have been taken, which have been put in place structurally, as I said, over the past few years, they are standing us in good stead. If you look at inflation, it's come down over the last year. It's being balanced. The fiscal situation, again, consolidation has taken place. GST revenues are at a record high. Mm-hmm. Then the incentives for manufacturing in sunrise sectors, even exports. So I think overall, there is a sense that all the hard work which has been put in place, then the social net programs, whether it's Ayushman Bharat, whether it's the food security program. So on a number of fronts, both in terms of growth, ease of doing business, our ranking came down from 142 many years ago to 62. A number of measures which have been taken to reduce compliances. Again, there's the Jan Vishwas bill which has been introduced in Parliament. Yes. So I think on multiple fronts, and we have seen that in Davos, India is open for business. And I think the world and many CEOs are looking at us as a very important destination.
So that point you made just now as well about India being open for business, what do you think is the big change or the big opportunity we need to seize? Because of course we've seen that recently some sectors shifting away from China, India now planning to go big in the semiconductor area. What are the big opportunities you see for India at this moment and when you're pitching to the world?
In this global situation, I think we have got our own unique development trajectory. If you look at the digital sector, there's phenomenal growth in the digital space. We have 1.2 billion cell phone owners, 800 million internet users. So the access to digital, you look at Aadhaar, 1.2 billion digital identities in India. UPI payments, about 7,000 crores in December alone.
You've had Satya Nadella and Sundar Pichai just now talking about India Stack.
Just talking about India Stack. So India Stack, again, unique. It's bringing together data, identity and payments. So there is building on our digital backbone. There's huge potential for growth. So I think that's one clear area where the world is looking towards India. It's a big market as well. And it's another area where we can insulate ourselves to the extent you can from the global with our own domestic market. There's credit growth as well, so the banking sector is also looking good. So I think overall there are many reasons why the world is looking at India.
So that's all the optimism, the good news. What do you think are the big challenges? But because of course, also when you talk about digitization, there's always the worry about a digital divide, especially in a country like India, where often levels of education or levels of access, most importantly, aren't the same, whether it's even a state to state or even within those states between urban and rural.
In fact, I was at a couple of sessions yesterday discussing digital, and India is one of the few countries where actually the digital divide to a large extent has been bridged. You look at the number of people who have access to the internet, who have digital identities, who are paying through digital means. So I think, and this is urban, this is rural. India is perhaps the fastest growing digital market, and in many ways India can become sort of India for the world. In the G20, digital economy and data for development are going to be key priorities. Don't forget, Sonia, in the world today, there are 4 billion people in the world without any digital identity. There are 2 billion people who have no access to banks, and more than 100 countries are dealing in cash. So India has moved very strongly towards a digital economy. Our digital public goods, whether it's CoWIN, whether it's Aadhaar, whether it's UPI, we have a very strong backbone which is helping us in India, but I think it can help the world as well.
So the big focus, of course, on domestic markets, and there is a view, and we've seen this at Davos as well, that perhaps now countries are focusing on domestic markets rather than looking internationally, and for India, that could be the big way ahead. You've also seen this time when you walk in Davos, the whole India spirit, as it were. You're seeing Telangana, Maharashtra, all the different states with their different lounges. How does that work when you can see often states are very vocal politically against each other, but when and against, say, central government if they're not the same party, but how does this all come together when it's the Niti Aayog and it's your headache to get them all on the same table?
Actually, it's Team India and Davos. It's a phenomenal representation. As you said, you walk down the street, it's India everywhere. There are 4 or 5 India pavilions. There's Maharashtra, there's Telangana, there's Tamil Nadu. So actually, it's a huge Indian delegation. They said this is the biggest delegation to Davos. We've got 4 central ministers here. We've got ministers from other states. And there's a growing recognition that this is India's decade, if not century. We were at a breakfast meeting this morning, and you can't sort of throw a brick anywhere in Davos without hitting an Indian or a member of the
That's
Indian
why NDTV is here. No, absolutely. In fact, it is the India decade we are all looking forward to, and really an equitable, inclusive India of 2023. Thanks so much, Mr. Iyer, for joining me. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Pleasure being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.